We're here at the home of some Santee Electric cooperative members, Van and Leslie Dukes, and they have spent some time along with some other special people working on their home to find a way to make it more energy efficient. The electric cooperatives some years ago began to realize that one of our biggest challenges in being sure that our members were using energy wisely was in fact the homes that they were living in, because those homes simply were wasting energy. They weren't as efficient as they needed to be. And so over the years, the last few years, and in one particularly big way that we're here to celebrate today, electric cooperatives have been looking for a way to develop a program that will do several things. One, that will save energy in members' homes. Two, that will save money. If you save energy, you're going to save money. And three, that will cut back on the amount of carbon dioxide emissions that are going up in the air when power is produced in many ways. Well, we found a way that will help all three of those, and it's solidified in something called the Rural Energy Savings Program that exists today, in part because of what the co-ops have done, and in large part because of the help that Congressman Clyburn has brought to this effort. I want you to listen for a few minutes about to the Dukes as they explain a little bit about what was done practically and tangibly in their home, and see the difference that it made when you find the money that's needed applied to the work that's necessary, and do it all in an affordable way.
Well, we bought the house in 2013, and our bills were running very high, so we ended up calling Santee Electric, and they came out and did an audit and told us about the program, and we found a lot of ways that we could save money and the efficiency of our home. And one of the ways was mainly caulking our crown molding around the cabinets. We were losing a lot of energy from there. I actually found a hole in our utility closet, and the weather stripping around our doors needed replacing, and they also put 2 units in that were much more efficient than the ones we had.
Tell them about what your bill was and what it is today, and the difference it made in money, but also related to the comfort. How does it feel? How's it made a difference in your life that way?
Oh, certainly. Our bills are running somewhere between $500 and $600 a month. So right now we've cut it almost in half. I believe it's running right around $250 a month. So it's made a big difference on saving money.
It's made a tremendous difference for me. I thought we had made a huge mistake when we moved out here from our 1,700 square foot house in Kingstree in town, and our electricity bill was running $120 a month. And then we moved out here into a larger home, and our bill was close to $600 a month. And I just thought we just needed to pack up and move back. It has made a big difference, and we could not be more pleased with all of the hard work that you all have put into this program. And we just really, really are very pleased.
Right. As far as them being able to finance it up to 10 years helped out a lot, because it's hard to pull that kind of money out your wallet to go pay for. And we really appreciate Congressman Clyburn for the support of this program also.
For Congressman Clyburn, it was never about the house. It was always about the people who lived in the house. When we started, we had a program that was nameless. We took it to Congressman Clyburn. During our discussions, we talked about the pilot and a lady that lived in his district, Linda Butler. Linda was a Head Start teacher who struggled to take care not only of her daughter, but also her granddaughter within the income that her position produced. She shared her story, and one of the most moving and unforgettable parts of that story was when she described the time she got a power bill from her local co-op that was so high, she just cried. She couldn't do anything else. She went and got into bed and cried. We shared that story with Congressman Clyburn, and it moved him. And he shared it with Congress, and ultimately, it moved them. In fact, he offered testimony in front of the United States House of Representatives Agricultural Committee, and he made sure that Linda's story was heard. Like most stories you want to tell, there's a happy ending. He showed that prior to the retrofit taking place at Miss Butler's house, the bill was substantially higher than after the upgrades. He shared how she talked about what she was going to be able to do with the money that she had saved from those upgrades. And he shared this story with the House Committee reviewing the Rural Energy Savings Program. He shared the story of Linda Butler, not Linda Butler's house. Many people want to view energy efficiency as a science and a way to avoid carbon emissions, and it is. Jim Clyburn was focused on the people. Of course, that's not a surprise to the folks at electric cooperatives. We've always known that about Jim Clyburn. When it passed the House, but didn't pass the Senate that year, Congressman Clyburn wasn't satisfied, and he wasn't satisfied to wait. He sent it to the Department of Agriculture's Rural Utilities Service and said, if you're willing to lend money to rural Americans for things such as startup businesses, why not lend money for something that could truly change their lives? There was also stories to be told when Congressman Clyburn visited that agency. He told those stories at that agency. He didn't stop at the agency. He even shared them with the president. He said, if you want to change lives, specifically in rural America, this is the way to do it. He always talked about changing lives anytime he talked about the program. And he never, ever stopped pushing for the program to pass. Finally, when the bill passed in 2014, as part of the Farm Bill package, we all came together to celebrate. We met in Trio, South Carolina, at the home of Miss Martha Scott. Like many people in rural parts of South Carolina, Miss Scott had her share of challenges. She was elderly and blind. When Congressman Clyburn met Miss Scott, he asked her why her home was so important to her. When you look at the nondescript cinder block home, you might wonder why someone would choose to live in a place that's in the direct path of hurricanes, a place whose roof had been damaged by high winds repeatedly over the years. Why would she choose to stay there? She showed Congressman Clyburn a picture of her great-grandmother who had survived slavery, who'd been emancipated, and who'd struggled to save money by farming and selling eggs, and in doing so was able to purchase the land that Martha Scott's home is on today. That emancipated slave, her great-grandmother, lived to be 116 years old. And in doing so, she instilled in Miss Scott that where she lived was important. It was more than a house, it was more than a piece of property. It was a place that had connection for her. That land was important to Martha. She would save her money as a custodian in New York City in the 1960s so she could build a house on that land where she could raise her children and her grandchildren. It is where she lives today, and it's where she hopes to die. Between Homeworks, which helps with safety and sanitation, and Help My House, the program that was enabled by Congressman Clyburn's work, Martha Scott will be able to do that. We're here today at another house with another story. Thank you to Van and Leslie Dukes for sharing their story with us. And again today, it's always the case with Congressman Clyburn. It's not about the house, it's about the people.
I want to say just a couple of things about this program. When it first came to my attention, I thought it made a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense to say to people living in a home that we can structure an effort by which you can borrow the necessary money to retrofit your home, get it done, and repay it, the loan, for even less than what your monthly payments have been before. I was intrigued by that, for a number of reasons. I do believe that South Carolina is a state that is mostly rural. In fact, if you compare us to a lot of other states, we are almost all rural. I want to say that to my friends in Charleston and Columbia, but compared to other states, ain't much urban by either one of those communities. So I was driven by the fact that South Carolina is mostly rural. But the second thing that drove me is when I looked at the research and I saw that South Carolina leads the nation per capita in manufactured housing. We're number one. And so I said, if we can say to these families living in poorly insulated homes that we can provide you with the wherewithal to bring down your utility rates and at the same time make a significant contribution to the overall national interest in lowering the carcinogens that tend to drift out into the air, that would be good. But then there's a third thing that hasn't been talked about here today. Where is the contractor? The third thing is when the loan is made, somebody got to be hired to do the installations. Somebody got to be hired to do the roof. And it is job creation. And you're helping to drive the local economy in a very positive way. So all of this made so much sense to me. I just thought that it would make a whole lot of sense to try to nationalize the program. So first of all, I want to thank the co-op for thinking of this idea. Now, when I go outside of South Carolina, I take total credit. I want y'all to know. I ain't gonna take total credit here, because y'all know better. But when I went to sit down with Orrin Hatch, I want you to understand. Orrin Hatch is a guy that, if you look on it, watch what's going on in the country, you would not think that there is any kind of relationship existing between a Jim Clyburn and a Senator Orrin Hatch from Utah. Well, you would be wrong, because there is a very personal relationship that exists between the two of us. And I went to him because, you know, I thought the program made sense. It passed the House in a bipartisan way. In fact, if my memory serves, Mike Hacker, who engineered all of this for me, I don't believe we got any dissenting votes in the House. I don't remember. I remember the Kentucky Republican from Kentucky co-sponsored it with me, and it passed overwhelmingly, if not unanimously. But it got stuck in the Senate. Now, the Senate ain't prone to do things that make sense a lot of times. You know, it's just 100 of them, and they've got their own little stuff. And so it didn't pass. So I went to Orrin Hatch. And I said, Senator, I need your help on something. And I explained it to him, and he wasn't quite understanding it. And so I went to my Gullah Geechee training that I got from my wife, who was born and raised over in Moncks Corner. So I decided to explain it to him. You know, a lot of times these guys don't understand the explanations. So you have to start explaining. And by the time I finished explaining it to him, he told me it sounded good to him. Now, I made one little mistake. This is what someone told me when I first got started in politics. A gentleman said to me, he said, now, let me tell you something. When you go out and you ask somebody to vote for you, and they tell you they are for you, stop talking. Go to the next person. Well, I forgot that lesson. And so even after Orrin told me he was all for it, I kept on talking. And then I almost messed up because I started talking about the co-ops and rules stuff and the presence of co-ops. And then I found out, Orrin looked at me and smiled and says, I don't think I have about 4 of them in the whole state of Utah. I knew then to stop talking. But he came to our rescue. And we were able to get the kind of sensitivity in the Senate that allowed us to, in a bipartisan, bicameral way, get this program in to a piece of legislation, and it became national law. So I want to thank the co-op. You know, I always say that it's our experiences that make us. We can say anything we want about our educational backgrounds, how good looking we are, how articulate we are, all of that. That doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference happens to be your experiences. And for the co-op to sit down with Mrs. Butler and talk about her experiences and to find a way to address her needs, that is what makes for good, lasting legislation. And so I'm so proud of this program because I know that we may have been the first to pioneer it. I believe the first tranche was, what, 56 million, 53? I think we got 13 million out of the first round. I'm told that the second round is coming up. This is going to be a big, big deal. What we do here today will help make this a national program for all co-op members all over this country. And if my memory serves, there are high 30s of the number of states that have co-ops, and they all will be eligible to participate in this program. And I thank them, and I thank you all for being here with us today.
Picking up on what John and the congressman said, the couple of examples that the congressman and John Frick referred to earlier, who are not here today but who we visited with before, are examples of people who truly needed the help and are struggling to get by. Now, this young family may be struggling, I don't know, but my sense is that they are not living on the edge. And my point in saying this is, this kind of help and this kind of fruitfulness can grow out of not only those who are on the edge, but others as well, which leads me to the second point. It's not a grant. It's not a giveaway. How wonderful it is that government found a way, Congressman, to also provide a loan that gets paid back by the benefits that the loan engendered. Those are two wonderful opportunities and things to brag about regarding this program.